Hey now. Hey now. Welcome everybody to an all new, you're listening to this 6 months from now, that's not new. But at this moment of me saying this, it is a new episode of the Uneeda Horror Podcast. Now, this is a highly requested episode, and I don't know what else to say. I finally decided to give the people what they wanted, Nick. I mean, how many times have people requested remakes?
Many. And I mentioned it on my stream earlier tonight. I said, by the way, we're recording a new episode tonight. It's going to be about remakes. I had people in the chat like, oh, hell yeah, remakes. Like, so
You know,
there's a hunger.
you know what it is? I think I've just had cold feet because remakes in the world of horror is basically defending child predators sometimes. I feel like it is dangerous.
It's
You know what I mean?
sacrilegious, man. It's sacrilegious. Yeah. People don't want to hear about remakes. It's like, why? Because, it's, hey, why remake something? We don't need to remake it. The original's fine just the way it is. So it's sacrilege. But you know what? You're lying to yourself if you say there's not a remake you don't like, because there's some pretty damn good ones.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a little bit more nervous about this episode than the Victor Salvage Jeepers Creepers episode. I'm just
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'll take my stance on the Jeepers Creepers thing, but the remake stuff, I don't know. I was actually looking at my list and I was telling show my wife my list, and she was just like, Christian, I'll say this about my list. Besides one entry, I think every remake on my list is in fact better than the original. Besides one entry, only one of them, the original, I find to be better, but the rest of them, I take that back. There's two of them, but the rest of them, I think the remakes are better, and
I've
I'm
got
proud of my list.
I've got 3 that are not better than the original, but 7 of my 10 I think are better than the original.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this. I don't know what your list entails of. Mine are 100% all. I'd say at least 95% for sure, just depending on how people may look at a certain aspect of one of these movies, are all remakes, not any requels. Although if people want to have that in their list, I don't care. It's kind of like a hybrid remake anyway, but mine are all legitimate just remakes. So I don't know, is your list that way? Or do you have any requels in there?
No requels. I do have a reboot that is not a remake of the original story, but everyone always calls it a remake, even though we know it's not.
I already know what entry. I already know what that is.
Yes. Now, Candyman is not on here because that is a requel.
Right.
So no, nothing like that. But yeah, there is one that I will bang the drum on. It's not a remake. It's just not. But everyone wants to call it one, so whatever. I'll put it on the damn list. So,
Do you want to do an honorable mention first?
well, I have 3 honorable mentions, and the first one is House of Wax, which I do actually find better than the original.
Uh-huh.
Didn't make the top 10, but I do love it. Uh,
Okay.
Let Me In, the remake
Okay.
of Let the Right One In. I love that movie. And this one would probably make it in just about almost any horror fan's top 10 remakes list, but I've never been big into the subgenre. So, honorable mention for Dawn of the Dead, because I cannot deny that it is a fantastic remake. I prefer it to the original. And it was a hugely influential movie. Like when I was a kid, I watched it all the time. But I've never been big enough into the zombie subgenre because most of the ones I'm looking at right now on my actual list, it's pretty much slashers. Aside from a few, it's pretty much like slasher movies.
Okay.
So yeah, those are the 3 honorables I have. Did you have any honorables that didn't make your list?
I have one honorable mention. It's a really cool film. I've seen the original now. I made sure I saw the original probably a couple months after I saw the remake. It's from the 80s. It's 1982's Cat People, which I was a
Oh yeah.
really big fan of. And it's got our boy from Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween, Dr. Loomis, Malcolm McDowell in it, and he's
Yes.
just fantastic. It's almost like a werewolf film in a sense, except the people turn into like bobcats or what have you. Great movie. There's some lovely, beautiful gore that I was not expecting, and the lead actress is mesmerizing. I had it in my list initially. It was around number 6 or 7, but then it got bumped down, and then it got bumped down, and then it got bumped down, and then it just crept right out. And I figured I want to at least mention Cat People because the couple times I've mentioned it on my channel, I always get a few people say, "You know what? I've always wanted to check that movie out, but I never did." And I'm like, "Please do. I love Cat People." So I'm gonna put that as my honorable mention, and I'll go first at my number 10,
Hit me.
Dawn of the Dead.
Aha.
It's my number 10. I do think I do prefer it over the original. Maybe not by too much, but the thing I love about the remake that Snyder did so well was this movie, I feel like the original Dawn of the Dead walks, not runs, and I like that the remake feels like more of a run instead of a walk. It moves quicker, it's, a little bit more in your face, and it's got that 2000s vibe, man. I love the remake of Dawn of the Dead. I don't know what else to say. I think Snyder got it all out. When I saw Army of the Dead, I didn't dislike that film a whole lot, but I was just like, you know what, man? I just feel like we're trying to write the second album to his '04 Dawn of the Dead, but like he got it right that first movie. So I thought it was so tightly wound and just perfect. I love maybe the baby scene. I could give or take that, but other than that, Dawn of the Dead '04 is the real deal. So I got it right at number 10.
Yeah, that's Zack Snyder's Black Album. Very hard to follow that up. Anything you do after that, even if it's good, you always compare it to the previous one. You're like, yeah, but it's not that one. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, as I said, I have 3 on my list that I do not feel are better than the original. If I will preface by saying it's not, this is one of those that I don't feel is better than the original. If I don't say that, I think it's better than the original. And the first one at number 10 is The Hills Have Eyes. I think it's better than the original. Um, and maybe that's just biased by my age. I don't know. This came out when I was 13. So
Mhm.
very impressionable getting into horror. And I mean, this movie is very unsettling in good ways. I mean, there's a scene obviously most of us could do without, but it's a very good movie, and it just stuck with me, man. Like, I don't know, that the dad just going around and hacking up these mutated people, looking for his baby. And the third act of that movie is it's just balls to the wall, man. It's gory, it's nasty, it's freaky, it's just awesome. It's just awesome.
Oh
So
yeah.
I got The Hills Have Eyes at number 10.
Very, very nice. May pop up on my list later on.
Maybe.
All right, my number 9, this is one that I think gets extremely close to the original, but it doesn't top it for me. And that is the mid 2000s, early 20, I think it's 2012 or 11, I'm not sure. Who's the little guy from Lord of the Rings? Frodo, what's his name?
The guy that
Uh,
plays him,
yeah.
Elijah
Uh,
Wood.
Elijah Woods, excuse me. Maniac. Elijah Woods Maniac is so cool. What I love about it is its POV approach, which the first time I watched the film, I was just like, I had never seen anything like it. It's really cool how you become the killer in the movie and you're through the eye of the camera in a real sense, not just a momentary sense like you see in the original Friday the 13th. Like you are him killing people, and it's really, really bizarre. I don't think it's better than the 1980 or 81, I forget the year, Maniac. It's close though, but I love Elijah Wood's Maniac. That movie needs a special Blu-ray treatment like I don't know what else does. But Elijah is fantastic in that movie. I mean, what a great performance in his own right. Different everything. That's what I think a great remake does, where it has the story, the heart of what the movie is still about. A maniac, and you're living in his world, and you're seeing that their lifestyle is uncomfortable. It's weird, and it's a little sympathetic. And Maniac 2012, I believe, is the year they nailed it. So I had to have Elijah Woods. My wife doesn't like it. She goes, Chris, that movie's just too much. It's too, she doesn't like the original either, which I love both those movies. But she was just like, "Really, you got Maniac on your list?" I was like, "I can't not have it on there. I love Maniac." So I got that at number 9. I gotta have Maniac right there.
It's a good one. That's definitely a good one. My number 9, I'm ready for the tomatoes to be thrown at me. This is one that is not better than the original. Don't
Here we
worry.
go.
Number 9 is going to be A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh boy.
And let me defend myself really quick, okay? Part of the reason why people don't like this movie is just because going into it, there was a lot of people that they had already set themselves up going, I'm not going to like this movie. No Robert Englund. It's just a straight up remake. They're just redoing the original story. Screw this movie. And I feel like if that's the way you look at it, then yeah, you're not going to like it. Jackie O'Haley, I think, did great and does not get the credit that he deserves for how well he did. Now, I will say he wasn't given great material. Rooney Mara as Nancy, no, not a fan. But I'll be damned if there aren't some great lines from Freddy in here, if there aren't some great kills. And honestly, as Christian and I have talked about before, when I saw this in the theater for the first time, I was genuinely surprised. I was like, are they really going to do this switch up on the story that Freddy was innocent? Because if they have the balls to do that, that'd be incredible. Talk about making this movie your own and not being a straight up remake. Now, I know the issues with it, as I said, but I really enjoy this movie. I do. I feel the way about this movie that some people feel about the Friday the 13th remake. You know, there's a lot of ardent defenders about that movie, and there's a lot of people that hate that movie. I feel like Nightmare's the same way. I don't love the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I enjoy it quite a bit. So I snuck that in at number 9, and you know what? I don't regret it.
I'm not gonna say anything against you there, but I'm just gonna leave you out to pasture on that one. We'll see what people say on that.
It's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good.
Hey man, be proud of it. All right, we're at number 8 now. And we're gonna give our top 3 or more. We can give more. I have 3 of the worst remakes ever on my list.
I have 3 as well.
Okay, cool. All right, we're at number 8. This one I know people will love to hear. Massive fan base for this film, and it's ever growing. 1988's Chuck Russell's The Blob had to be on my top 10 greatest remakes ever. Talk about a special effects extravaganza, a movie that just horror fans today that love 80s horror, when they see it for the first time, they go into it with just like that, the Blob, that just whatever, blah blah blah. And then you watch it, and the special effects are so insane and so great. And a young, beautiful Sean E. Smith, legal, mind you, but a young, beautiful Sean E. Smith. It's one of Chuck Russell's best films, and this is the guy responsible for Dream Warriors, and you could tell the guy wasn't a fluke. Chuck Russell's a master. He also did The Mask, which is probably my favorite Jim Carrey movie. But The Blob is so awesome. Had to be on this list. No way I can't have not have The Blob on here. So there it is. 1988's The Blob, all day, number 8. Probably should be higher, but it's not. But it's still on the list.
Yeah, so far, man, I don't think you're going to get a lot of tomatoes thrown at you. I'm worried. I'm worried about my list. Number 8 is going to be a movie that technically, if you Google it, they have it under horror. So I put it on here. It is a remake, although takes a lot of its own liberties. I'd call it more of a mystery thriller slasher, but that's 2020's The Invisible Man.
Okay.
And I loved this movie. I was very surprised about, and you know, I'll never look at this movie the same way again, because this was the last movie to really break out at the box office right before COVID hit. This movie was in its theatrical run when everything started shutting down. And they put it on VOD. So it's bittersweet, because every time I look at just the poster for this movie, I'm like, this was when life changed, when The Invisible Man came out. But I think this movie's awesome. I mean, I think that it's really well acted. It's really well directed. I think it's genuinely surprising at parts, and it's suspenseful in the sense of, like, you put yourself in that position and you're kind of like, dude, no one would believe you. Like, this dude's invisible. Like, you're crazy. Like, you're insane. And it's
Mhm.
creepy at the same time because it's like, you don't know if he's in the room in every shot throughout the movie. You don't know where this person is, what they're doing. Like, the way he toys with her throughout the movie just to make her look crazy is just, and people, it's just insane. The part in this movie, that I think the part that stands out to me the most is when she's out to dinner with her sister and he shows up and slits her sister's throat.
Brutal.
And yeah, and she's the only one there and everyone thinks she did it. I'm like,
Mhm.
holy crap. I mean, I think it's a great movie. So The
I
Invisible Man.
I lament what would have happened, and maybe we're still gonna see it. So the big talk of the town was that Universal was gonna, uh, completely redo and bring it to modernize a lot of the Universal classics, and we know that we got that Tom Cruise The Mummy, which did not I don't know if it did well financially, but critically, I know a lot of people were just like, "Oh god." They didn't like it. I did not like it, at all, quite frankly, but when I remember when The Invisible Man came out, I was just like, "Ugh, here's gonna be more, Hollywood garbage like that Mummy that came out," but then I heard it was Lee Winnell, and I was like, "Hmm, okay." I loved it. I loved The Invisible Man. I thought it was awesome. I like it the way I like Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, where it takes the core of the character, but it brings it to its own, just it's got its own things about it that make it unique to that movie unlike anything else. Like, I love that Mummy, the Brendan Fraser Mummy, is this beautiful action adventure horror thing, and this one is really this drama, like you said, mystery thriller, uh, and it's not the guy wrapped in bandages or nothing like that. It's its own thing, but it's still The Invisible Man. Beautiful. I thought that was I would love to see more. I think was there talk about The Invisible Woman?
There was talk of a sequel to this and a spinoff, The Invisible Woman and The Invisible Man 2. And I don't know. I know COVID was what put it on hold, but Blumhouse is back doing movies again. So I don't know why they
Oh, that
haven't
was
revisited
Blumhouse,
that.
wasn't it?
Yeah. I think the only thing is the holdup is that they were going to redo all of these classic monster movies.
And
And
wait up, so
then,
Universal was, but then
yes.
they decided not to, and so Blumhouse got the
So maybe Blumhouse got screwed. Yeah, because The Mummy did terribly commercially and critically. It lost money and no one liked it.
who
But
the
The
hell wanted
Invisible
Tom Cruise in The
I
Mummy?
I
Actually, I
have
take
no
me look,
idea.
I like Tom Cruise. He is so fucking awesome in he is so fucking awesome in The Interview with the Vampire. He was
Yeah.
so good in that, but something about Tom Cruise in The Mummy, I was just like, I don't know. Then again, maybe people felt the same way about Brendan Fraser in The Mummy, but
I think the thing was they needed to start somewhere different. Maybe the first remake should have been The Invisible Man. Why remake The Mummy? Those movies aren't even that old. Like, you know what I mean? Like, start with The Invisible Man, maybe do Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, do the other ones first. Because those ones need modern adaptations. But I
well,
didn't
maybe
think The
they
Mummy
saw
did.
maybe they saw The Mummy had a track record of making money, especially with that
Yeah.
latest series. I don't
But
know.
The Invisible Man got great reviews and made a ton of money. So it
And
warranted a sequel. We just never
And
got one.
Blumhouse made that film a hell of a lot cheaper too than what
Oh,
that
yeah.
Universal The Mummy was, so
Yep.
I tell you, man, Blumhouse, love them or hate them, they know how to make mid-budget films and be able to make a profit. Love them or hate them, you know? Some of them damn films, like them Happy Death Days and stuff,
I love those
they
movies.
paid for their kids' schools with all them films, so what can you say?
They considered Happy Death Day 2U a box office disappointment because the budget was $12 million and it made $64 million. So imagine looking at a movie and saying it's a disappointment, although it made more than 5 times its budget.
What did the first one make?
The first one made like 125 million, so that's
Dude,
why.
I'm not a big fan of the second one. I don't dislike it. Because I liked the characters, so I enjoyed seeing them do their thing. But that first one was awesome.
Oh, it's fantastic. I avoided it in theaters because I thought the trailers looked stupid, and then I caught it on streaming one night after work a couple years ago, and I was like, "Oh my god, that was amazing!" Like,
And first, at first, I thought I was gonna be really mad that they basically just did Groundhog Day because I love Groundhog Day. I was like, really, this seems so lazy. They literally just said, let's do Groundhog Day. But then for some reason, I don't know. I really liked it. It won me over as the movie kept going over, and I was like, this is really fun.
Well, Jason Blum did a Q&A on Twitter the other day, and someone asked him about the third one because people won't stop asking about it. And they were going to do a trilogy, but then when the second one underperformed, they kind of went dark on that. Well, he said something is stirring. I will just say that for now.
Okay.
So we're going to get a third one.
I can't wait to get to Happy Death Day. I may not get the second one, but I'll probably get that first one on 4K. I saw that they're putting it out on 4K.
Dude, I saw that too. I was like, I'm getting both.
Yeah.
My wife and I were actually talking about this the other day when it came to these two. She was like, I really liked the first one. The second one was just, I thought it was stupid. I'm like, yeah, because it wasn't a straight up slasher anymore. Like, I get it, but I liked the sci-fi goofy comedy.
Yeah.
But I digress. Christian, number 7.
My number 7, it's funny, this conversation is flowing very naturally from what we're talking about to where we're going. My number 7 is a movie. There have been many, 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 many incarnations of this novella. My number 7 is 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula, starring Keanu Reeves and all those good people, Gary Oldman. What can I say? I mean, that film grew on me so much over the last couple of years. I love it so much. I think Gary Oldman's Dracula performance in that castle is riveting. He's the man. I love it. The special effects are fantastic. Whenever you see Dracula turn into that monstrous like bat wolf hybrid thing is horrifying. And especially the scene where he's banging that chick on the tombstone outside of like that massive coliseum midway through the film is just shocking. But what a film. I just loved after the slasher craze faded out and they had these they brought it back to basics and they started doing the classics again. Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm not a big fan of Keanu Reeves in the film. I think he not necessarily phones it in. I just don't think he was up to par with everybody else. But other than that, I can forgive that all day because of how great everything else is. I love 1992's Dracula. So I had to put it on my list. Fantastic movie. That's my number 7.
Yeah. Well, I think my number 7, I'll be surprised if this isn't on your list, but I don't know. My number 7 is another one that it is better than the original. The Crazies. Talk about a zombie movie that I loved. And I was talking to Christian about this, and we were talking earlier. I said it on the podcast earlier in this episode about how I've never been the biggest zombie fan, but there's certain zombie movies that really stick with me. Like, for example, 28 Days Later, I just don't really care for those movies. I really don't. They don't do much for me. The Crazies, though, oh my God, this movie kicks serious ass. I mean, it is. I don't know if it's it's just not prototypical zombies. I don't know. They're smarter. They use weapons. They're legitimately crazy. Like it's more terrifying that way. The scene where his wife and her, I believe it's her coworker or employee or whatever, are like strapped down to those gurneys in that ward of all these people that are potentially infected, and that dude comes in and he's just stabbing through a bunch of people with pitchforks, like going toward them. There's some genuinely like suspenseful stuff in this movie. And to find out that like the government was basically just like, all right, that town, fuck that town, nuke that shit. Like we can't let this get out anymore. Like it's awesome. I love this movie. So The Crazies is my number 7.
Yeah, I would probably put that on par with. I really do like the original George Romero film too. It's not in my list, but I went back and forth because I do enjoy The Crazies quite a bit. But yeah, I would agree. That's a great one. That is a great film.
Yeah.
I really want to rewatch it. It's been a few years since I've watched The Crazies, but that's
Is
good
that
stuff.
Timothy Oliphant? It's him, right? Yeah.
I wouldn't know that name, or I couldn't put the face to a name.
I believe it's Timothy Oliphant. He's Mickey from Scream 2. The killer from Scream 2, not Debbie Salt, but the other one.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
I know the
Timothy Oliphant.
face.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that was number 7 for you. Now we're moving to number 6. 1999's House on Haunted Hill is in my top. It's my top 10 greatest remakes ever. The little movie that could, man, I tell you, I've told the story a bunch. I'll tell it again. I went to FYE one week with my wife, and we were looking through the all the movies to just see if we could find collectors Scream Factory releases, and we came across House on Haunted Hill. And I love the original, but I did not really care to watch a remake from 1999 of the film. And my wife goes, "Oh, Christian, I love that movie." I'm just like, I don't feel like buying it. She goes, "But I am telling you, it's really good." And I'm like, "I don't feel like buying it." And she's like, "Whatever." Fast forward a day, 2 days, maybe 3 days, and I'm scrolling on Facebook or something, and I see an article from Bloody Disgusting, and the article is a written review for House on Haunted Hill 1999, and the title for the article is House on Haunted Hill is a 1999 is a perfect blend of classic horror and modern horror. And I was like, interesting. So I read up on it and I was just like, holy shit, I've got to see this movie now. This is probably 3-4 years ago, whatever it was. And so I go and tell my wife, and I tell her, Sydney, I read this article about House on Haunted Hill, and we need to go get that movie. I really want to see it. And she wanted to kill me because she's like, you stupid son of a bitch. Like, I told you it was good. Why don't you listen to me? And I was like, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. And so we go back to FYA. Luckily, they still had it there. And I watched it and I was like, dude, this really was good. Perfect sense of humor, perfect sense of like creepiness. I loved it. I think it's one of the best remakes from its time, from its 10-12 year radius. I think you really can't get much better than House on Haunted Hill. I'm not a big fan of Return to House on Haunted Hill, I think it's called, or whatever. It came out a couple
Yeah.
years later. It's
Yeah.
okay. But that one is so good. And I think that same director did 13 Ghosts, or he did Ghost Ship, one of the two. Those are two good remakes as well. But House on Haunted Hill gets it right. I love it. Totally gonna be my number 6.
You know, I feel like an idiot now. That should have been on my list. I don't know why it's not. That movie was so impactful to me as a child. I would put House on a Haunted Hill as one of the primary reasons I'm even a horror fan. I mean, that's how influential that movie was to me. I watched it all the time on TV when I was a kid. I love that movie as well.
Yeah.
Um, Another one that is going to be controversial, and this one is not better than the original, in my opinion. But number 6 is going to be from 2019, Child's Play. Um, and you know, here's the thing about the remake of Child's Play. This movie could have gone real bad, real easily. Although it's a simple premise, the original Child's Play, you can really mess this up. And damn it, they almost did, because when I'm seeing behind the scenes and looking at the doll, I'm like, this doll is not good. It's not good. But once you see the movie and you understand the different spin they had on it, I thought was really, really intelligent. I think that him being AI and genuinely not understanding and just wanting to do anything so him and Andy can be best friends. And like, I thought that was a cool spin. I love the third act when all these buddy products or whatever are coming alive and killing people in that supermarket. I mean, it's awesome. Mark Hamill, I mean, casting him as the voice of Chucky, if you're not going to have Brad Dourif, Mark Hamill is a fantastic voice actor. So I thought that was great casting. I just had a really fun time with this movie, and I felt like this movie did something that it needed to do, which was, if they're going to remake this movie, although this takes a lot of liberties, so I appreciate that. It's not copy paste from the first one, but there's a lot of really good kills. Like the dude with the freaking, that gets like his, I don't even know what that thing is in the yard where he's stringing up the lights and falls down and Chucky like runs over his freaking head with that. I don't even know what the hell that is. It cuts his head all up and then he gets on him and says, "This is for Tupac," and starts stabbing him. Like, there's just something about that movie that it's just, I just have a really good time watching it. I don't know. So I put it at 6. Objectively, are there ones better? Yeah, for sure. But I've got a soft spot for Chucky, and I just feel like they handled that really well and kind of made it their own. So yeah.
There you go. There you go, man. Okay. Number I guess it's my number 5.
Cinco. Yes.
You mentioned it earlier. I have it at number 5, man. I got The Hills Have Eyes at my number 5. I think it's damn good. I like that the film is not easy to watch. I not that I enjoy watching rape by any stretch, but this is horror. I think you need to be uncomfortable sometimes watching movies, and if you're watching a movie called The Hills Have Eyes, you don't expect these people to just tie you down and slap you with chains and whips. I mean, these people are messed up. So I think I applaud the film for making its audience uncomfortable, and, I just love the, designs of the characters and that almost, like, abandoned little town that they find in the I guess, the hills, for lack of a better term. Brilliant film. I'll take it over the original. As much as it pains me because I love Michael Berryman so much, I think I like this one more than the original. I think the original is a great '70s, low budget, just masterpiece in its own right, and it's funny because Wes Craven's looked at as this, brilliant, I say brilliant, not that that movie's stupid, but like this elegant guy who can make these evocative, nice films, but some of his films were more disgusting and nasty than, trauma films, for God's sake. So, I gotta give it up to the remake. I think The Hills Have Eyes, and that's the real reason I put it on here because I love the original so much. My criteria was finding remakes that I think are either on level with or just better than the original, and I gotta give it to The Hills Have Eyes. I like part 2, but I think part 1 gets the job done, big time. So I got The Hills Have Eyes at number 5.
Well, this is kind of perfect timing for my number 5. This is one that I also find better than a Wes Craven original, and it's also very hard to watch, just like The Hills Have Eyes. My number 5 is The Last House on the Left.
Mm,
Um,
good choice.
I love this remake. I mean, I love this remake. I think that the casting is brilliant. Obviously, any movie like these, the rape revenge movies, they're definitely uncomfortable. They're definitely hard to watch at moments, but what comes out of it makes it almost kind of worth having to sit through that one scene, because to see these sick sons of bitches get absolutely brutalized by this family one by one, as the viewer, the movie does its job in making you uncomfortable, making you hate these people, and then getting you to just root your ass off to watch these people just get absolutely annihilated.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that the movie just does all of that right. Um, I love this movie. I mean, I like the original, and it's funny, when you talk about Craven, it's like I don't think people realize that earlier in his career, he was a lot more risque and over in taking chances than he was as his career went on. Craven didn't start to become that guy that people go, wow, this is such, a well told story. It's very palatable for everyone. Look at the Scream movies, for example. You notice in the Scream movies, there's nothing that really ever makes you uncomfortable. There's no, they're great. There's some great movies in there, but it's a lot of, it's handled with more class, I guess you would say. But then you look back at his early career, I mean, you got some grimy movies. I mean, you got some grimy movies in early on in his career. So, but this is a remake that I just think I think it's pretty freaking good. So I got it at
It
5.
I don't think it was a remake at all, but one of my favorites that he did that is just like a sleaze fest with Adrian Barbeau's lovely, chesticles in it is, his Swamp Thing movie.
Oh yeah,
That's great, but people gotta remember too, it's just like Freddy was supposed to be like a molester. Like, I don't know what happened, why they made him a killer, because that somehow is it's funny, killing a kid isn't as bad as touching a kid
yeah.
in society. But, not that it really is, but it's just like on film, killing a kid is a lot easier to hear than molesting, but that's what his intention was.
I know.
So just like Wes was nasty.
Yeah.
He really was.
And it's
But
funny to hear people talk about Wes too that would have worked with him. Especially with the new Scream that came out, hearing all the legacy cast talk about Wes and oh, he was such a kind soul and he was such a sweet man. And it's like, and Nev Campbell put it best. She's like, but you would never know that when you look at some of these fucked up movies he's made, you
Right.
know?
Even Robert Englund talked about that his first time meeting him. He was expecting a guy like dressed in black or just like some dirty looking bastard. And he was,
Rob Zombie.
yeah, like he says, I met a guy dressed in like khakis and Ralph Lauren. You know, maybe he
Yeah.
has maybe Wes. Well, we all have a dark side. So what the hell?
Yeah. But yeah, Last House on the Left, number 5. I love it.
All right, number 4. I have double dipped a little bit on my top 10, but this is the truth. My number 4 of greatest remakes ever is 1979's Frank Langella starred Dracula.
Ah,
I think that this movie is fucking awesome. I
Donald
love it
Pleasence.
so much. Yes, Donald Pleasance is great in this film. I feel like he's in his element in this movie. He was so good at Frank Langella has that suave, cool, you know, just vibe. He nails it as Dracula. I love this film so much. The opening scene, when it comes to Dracula movies, a lot of stuff you either have stuff that was from the book that gets focused on hard, gets hinted at a little bit in films, or completely omitted. And one of the things I loved about this one was, you know, Dracula takes a boat ride and slaughters everybody, you know. And I've seen TV shows that focus on the boat ride. I've seen movies that don't even talk about the boat ride, but this movie showed a fraction of the boat ride, and then you see the aftermath of the havoc that ensued, and I loved it. The castle was so beautiful in this movie. 1979's Dracula is a masterpiece to me. I don't know if it's the best one per se. Maybe it's the original, Bella Dracula, but my Dracula is the 1979 Frank Langella and Laurence Olivier Dracula film. I think it is a masterpiece, and I have pushed it on people as hard as I could. I tell people all the time, please get that Scream Factory release. Trust me. I know if you're not a fan of old school horror, perfect. This one's for you because you're going to get a taste of classic style horror, but your needs are going to be met as a classic 80s, 70s horror fan. So I'm proud to have 1979's Dracula on my list. I think it is a genuine masterpiece. Bada boom.
All right. Well, following that one up, I got one that all of us hardcore horror fans, we know that this is a remake, but a lot of casuals you'll run into sometimes, they don't know it's a remake because it's omits part of the name. But I'm going with John Carpenter's classic at number 4, The Thing. I freaking love this movie. I know this is going to be on, it's got to be on Christian's list. It's got to be.
Maybe, maybe not.
He hasn't said it yet, but The Thing is fantastic. I mean, what can you say that hasn't already been said about The Thing? I mean, it's the ambiguous ending, the fact that the practical effects in this movie. That's really the thing that gets me. I mean, I still remember the first time I watched this movie and the hands just going through that, his chest just opening up and this freaking dude's hands just going through it. And then this thing, I mean, it's gross. It is it's super well acted. I mean, I freaking God, I love the performances in this movie. I imagine myself in that position, probably being the same way of like, all of you get away from me. I can't trust any of you. Being isolated out there in the freaking Arctic, like there's just, it's a masterpiece. I mean, what else can you say? You want to talk about a movie that has a feeling of like it's just desolate, it's hopeless, it's lonely, it's you're trapped. Like it's reminds me of 30 Days of Night in that sense. It's trapped in the cold with only the people you're with, and that's it. There's no help. No one's coming to save you. I love this movie. I love this movie so much. I know that when it comes to Carpenter, the two that people always talk about are Halloween and The Thing, and rightfully so. But let me tell you, The Thing. I know I'm a Halloween guy, but this movie is just
Oh, it's not close to me. That's his best film.
it's a banger, man. It's a banger. I mean, I even like the prequel. I wish they would have used practical effects in that prequel, but I don't dislike that movie. We're getting a remake of it too, another one. It was I think announced a year or so ago, but we'll see how that goes. But as of right now, yeah, number 4 is The Thing.
Okay. God, that's your number 4. Where the hell do you go after that?
I know, right?
Okay, number 3 does not beat the original, but to me it's tied, but I prefer it, I think. I love to death 1990s Tom Savini directed Night of the Living Dead. It's one of my all-time favorites. I love it. It's such a love letter to the original film, and I love everybody in this film. Tony is awesome in Night of the Living Dead 90. I love it so much. The lead actress who plays Barbara she's a stunt woman, and she got the gig to play Barbara, and she's awesome. She's a badass, and she becomes a badass in the film. I love all the makeup effects. There's some great stuff. Now, everybody tells me about, Christian, it's a shame that we can never really see the true unedited version. And you're right. I would love to see it. I still think what they got on screen, a lot of that stuff is great though. But I love it. I just love it. I think it respects the original so much, and it's damn entertaining and so much rewatch value. I don't know. That's all. I'll keep it short and sweet. But 1990s Night of the Living Dead is I guess, my third favorite horror remake ever made. Love it to death.
I will say I know what your next two are. I don't know in what order, but I know what they are.
Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
I think I do, but this one comes at number 3 for me because the first iteration of this when I was a kid was super important to me, and I felt like this modern take on it was even better. Maybe I would put The Thing at 3 and this one at 4, but since I already did The Thing, number 3 is going to be It and It Chapter 2. You put them both together because it's one story. Look, I think that it did everything that 1990s miniseries did, and then better. I think that the from the cast to the story to the drama to the just genuine moments of like, did that really just happen on screen? Like seeing Georgie's arm get ripped off in the first 10 minutes of the first one. When I was in the theater, I was genuinely uncomfortable. I was like, we literally just saw that child's arm get bitten off. Like, ugh. And then in the second one with the little girl with the firefly under the bleachers, and he just like eats her head. And I'm like, we just saw this like this is happening. Like children are just getting like brutalized by Pennywise. Bill Skarsgård
Mhm.
lived for the role. He lived for the role. He was
Yeah.
fantastic as Pennywise. I mean,
Yes, he did.
fantastic. Um, and I think that the cast in both movies were great, but I especially loved them as adults. I just felt like, because that's where the 90 miniseries got it wrong. The kids portion was great. The second part, not so much. And everybody always complained about how some of the adults didn't seem to mesh well. The story wasn't really there. It seemed a lot more phoned in that portion of it. Whereas in this one, chapter 2, I love their chemistry. It's almost 3 hours long, so you really get it fleshed out. I love both of these. So I put it as one because it's one long story, but I'm going It and It Chapter 2 at number 3.
Okay. That's a good one. I went back and forth with having it on mine, but I just decided not to. But, let's see. So my number 2 is The Thing.
Yeah.
I had to have The Thing there. I don't need to go on a whole spiel about it. Although I will say, to me, I'm sorry, I love Halloween. It's not even close. The Thing is John Carpenter's greatest horror film he ever made. It's not even close. I mean, I get it. You guys love Halloween. You love Michael Myers. The Thing is like it's like a grown-up version of Halloween. It is one of the greatest horror movies I've ever seen. Name a better horror film than The Thing, pound for pound, for God's sakes.
Halloween. No, I'm just
Like
kidding.
like, I'm being facetious a little bit, but seriously,
Yeah.
I totally think that The Thing is leaps and bounds John's greatest film he ever made.
I will give you
So
this. I think that as a self-contained one-off story, there might be more to The Thing than there is to Halloween. I genuinely could give you that and be like, yeah, you could make that argument, and it's probably a winning argument. But I think the reason I go with Halloween is because everything that came out of Halloween, all the sequels we got, the status of Michael Myers, what that movie built. But if there were no other movies and it was just Halloween versus The Thing. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'd be hard. It'd be
I'm just
hard.
I'm still here's the thing. No pun intended, every time I watch The Thing, I'm still blown away and impressed by what I see on screen. It's never as good. It's always better than what I try to picture in my head. I can't think of any film that can truly do that. I mean, every time I watch it, I'm like, shit, it really is even better than I remembered. When you see that, and it only improves on better picture quality. That's
Oh
what's even crazier. How many films you see like the fishing lines, or you see what have you, when the picture quality gets better, the thing only improves. It only improves. So Halloween's the second greatest to me, followed by maybe, Prince's Darkness or something. I love Prince, but I to me, the thing is that damn good. So it's my second favorite remake, and I will definitely take a bullet for what my number one is. I think it is as good, but better in other ways. But I think The Thing is the second greatest. But I
Do
also
you
want to
know?
implore people, please, if you haven't watched The Thing from Another World, please see it. It really is a great, great classic horror film, and it
Halloween
moves fast.
Halloween made me watch that movie because Tommy Boy was watching it on TV. So when I was a kid, I kept seeing it when I'd watch Halloween, and I was like, I gotta watch that movie.
It's a great
Um,
little movie. Different. There's women in the film,
yes,
which is one of the big differences. So all
yeah.
the guys are in a good mood in that movie, but it's still a great little film. It's a great little film. I really love The Thing from Another World, but The
Yep.
Thing is my number two. Do you know what my number one is still? Do you have a guess?
I'm conflicted
I'll let you
because
guess. I'll
you
let you
said the
guess.
you said the criteria. Okay, I thought your number one was what my
The,
number two is right here.
well, go ahead and do your number one. I'll let you guess my number
Well,
one.
this is my number two.
Good. No, your number
So
two. Excuse me.
my number two is 2003's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
The reason that I thought this was going to be yours, but you did say part of the criteria was that you're basing this off remakes being better, but you did say one of them wasn't better than the yes. Christian's number one is going to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think it's my number two. It's not. Jesus Christ!
No,
It didn't even
first of
make your
all,
it didn't make
no
your top
text.
10.
No, because I like the beginning more than '03. So why
Okay,
would I
okay,
wouldn't have '03 on my list.
you're right. You're right.
I'll let you
Whatever.
guess. I'm gonna give you a hint when we get to it,
Okay.
but please tell the people why you got Texas Chainsaw '03 on your list.
This is one of the first like pseudo slasher type movies I saw. You know, I mean, it's not technically your cut copy paste slasher movie, but I saw it before I saw the original. I saw it when I was a kid. I was 10 when it came out, and I remember watching it all the time with my buddies. It's awesome. It's awesome. From Arlie Ermy to Jessica Biel to
Mm,
the gore to Andrew Briniarski as Leatherface. He's fantastic as Leatherface. The family in this movie is just so
yeah.
deranged, and I mean, in the beginning, I love the beginning just as much. I mean, those two movies to me are like god tier when it comes to modern horror movies. Those are some of the better ones. I mean, and the narrative for both, it flows so well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, '03, man. I mean, it's just I think it's a modern horror classic in my opinion. You know, when I was googling because I wanted to get pictures of all these remakes just in my head to go through them and be like, okay, which one? Yeah, this one, this one. There was a list. There was like a link, and it was like worst remakes of all time. TCM was on there. I was like, you're fucking kidding me, right? You're kidding me. Like that's on a top 10 list. This person had the balls to write this editorial and put that on 10 worst remakes list. Like seriously, go touch grass. But yeah, that's my number two, and I genuinely don't know your number one. Well, let me ask you a question before. Is it a remake or is it something people
Yes,
call
it's
okay?
it's a remake.
Because
It's
you
not
know
only
my
okay.
number one then.
Look, I don't have any big slasher remake on here. None of them. Not Halloween, not Texas Chainsaw, not Nightmare, not Friday the 13th. My number one, in my opinion, the special effects are 100% on par. Some people could say they disagree, but to me, it's no question. The makeup effects are on par. They won awards for the makeup effects,
Is it The
and
Fly?
it's The Fly. And the
Knew it.
reason that the reason my number one is The Fly is because the story elements I love more than The Thing. I think the Jeff Goldblum story of Seth Brundle is remarkable. The story is a lot of people put a metaphor for The Fly. They think that the movie, even though Cronenberg says it really isn't, I was just making a horror film. A lot of people see the movie as somebody dying from a disease, and Gina Davis is the character some people can relate to, saying where you want to help somebody that's going through something, but you realize you can't help them. And I can see that metaphor that people put with that movie, but that movie is riveting in ways that only Cronenberg can do. Cronenberg loves having story elements that make a viewer very uncomfortable. The ex-boyfriend in The Fly really just grosses me out. He's obsessed with Gina. He follows her. He stalks her at the mall. He talks about, you know, wild fantasies and just, can we please just have sex if we can't be together? It's like pathetic. But it's like something guys go through when they fall for a woman who wants nothing to do with them. And a lot of times the most attractive thing to a guy is when a girl wants nothing to do with them. And it's like an uncomfortable thing that Cronenberg puts into that movie that I think is only Cronenberg can do that and do it right. And Seth Brundle's performance is, in my opinion, better than any performance in The Thing. Not that anybody's bad at all in The Thing, but I think what Jeff Goldblum does in that movie is phenomenal. I think that The Fly is the greatest horror remake ever made. So not only is it my number one as my favorite, I don't think that there's a remake, in my opinion, that's better than The Fly. So that's far and away my number one is David Cronenberg's The Fly.
You know, starting off with this list, I wouldn't have thought that would have been your number one, but it makes sense to me now because I've heard you talk very highly of that movie. You know, so I should have probably thought it would be on the list. My number one, Christian probably knows what it is because and I've how I prefaced it. It is a movie that is not a remake, but everybody calls it a remake, so it's just gotten the label of a remake, but it's not a remake. But since you all call it a remake, screw it. I'll put it on the list, and I'll put it at number one. And that's Evil Dead 2013. Okay, this movie, I'm assuming it didn't make it on Christian's list because to him, like to me, it is not a
It's
remake.
yeah, I don't, and I get so
Yes.
confused. Reboot, soft reboot, requels,
Yes.
whatever. There's so many damn titles. I didn't put it on here just for that fact, but I just did that for my own taste. I don't care if you, and I didn't even tell you, hey, don't put a movie like Evil Dead, because quite frankly, I don't care if people do or not. I want them to put what they feel comfortable. But I if you were gonna have that movie anywhere on your list, I would expect it to be at number one.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The reason I put it here is because, like I said, in the public eye, it's just all been, it's all been. Everybody calls it a remake. That's what everybody considers it. And you know what? If that's what people want to call it, that's fine. I know it's not a remake, but working off of that knowledge, and I know there's going to be people in in the comments and stuff that'll give their lists and they'll put Evil Dead on there. So I just love this freaking movie, man. It is my second favorite Evil Dead movie behind Evil Dead 2. I think
It's the
that
real
it is
deal.
it's ruthless. It's disgusting. It's creepy. It's so well acted. It's so atmospheric. I mean, it's just memorable. It did everything Evil Dead did and did it better. I think it just that you can't walk away from this movie and not I don't even know what else to say. I mean, guys, I could go on and on and on. It's
It
fantastic.
it was so good that back against the wall going into the theater, I couldn't deny it was what I was watching was that good. I was so ready to hate this movie.
Yep.
I was like, Bruce Campbell is to if you don't have Bruce Campbell in an Evil Dead movie, you don't have a movie. That was my mindset going in. I mean, really it was. And when we left the theater, I was pissed off that I was wrong. I was so ready to hate it. And it was that good. I literally in the theater, I was pissed off. It was that, I mean, because that movie beat my ass in the theater. It was just like, you're an idiot. I'm about to show you how good this son of a bitch is going to be. And it was.
Yeah.
It was that good. And the scene of her being buried at the end, and right before they finally dig her, and she's like, "Oh, she's behind that sheet." She's like, "No, no." She finally has the moment where she, pretends she's like she's herself again. Terrifying,
Like, "Why do you hate me, David?" And he's like, "Oh, shit." Like, no, he like
terrifying.
oh my god, it's just messed up. It's scary. It's as on par with me as, the scene that looks like something out of a fucking Tim Burton movie, the headless chick dancing around in the woods, rolling her head around through her arms. Is that the first one or the second one? I'm trying to
Part
remember.
two,
Yeah, part 2, that's what I thought. Yeah, because that scene terrifies me still. It's so unsettling.
because it's
That's
stop
what
motion. Yeah,
Yes, and in this that scene of her being buried and talking to him has that same effect. I also think that some of the one-liners in this movie are just disgusting. The stuff she's saying when she's down in the cellar is just some of the foulest shit. And I mean, just cutting her tongue in half with the X-Acto knife, and when Natalie's about to cut her arm off in the kitchen, she's like, "Don't cut it off, you bitch!" Like it's just,
yeah.
I mean, Jane Levy. I swear to God, like if someone did, there's few performances in horror where I would go, this woman deserved an Oscar. It's absolutely in Hereditary with Toni Collette and Jane Levy in Evil Dead 2013, because the range of emotions this woman had to play and to sell it the way she did was absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, it's an all-timer movie for me, man. I'm stoked for Evil Dead Rise, but I just feel like in my heart nothing's ever going to top 2013. But I love it. I love it.
Mm. That's a great number one. So what did you expect to be on my list that wasn't on my list?
I expected Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but you're right. I didn't think about you do prefer the beginning. I expected the Crazies, and
Again, I think I had that on there, but it crept off.
yeah, and then Last
Yeah,
House on the Left. I didn't expect Last House on the Left, but I thought maybe he'll have that.
it's a good one. That's a good one. I'd
But I
I'd take
think
that over the original too, quite frankly. I like the
yeah.
original, but
But everything you did say, I was like, yeah, I could see it. I could see your list. I mean, I still haven't seen Dracula 79, and I've told everybody, Christian has been the one that has kind of put it into my head as well. Like, you need to get that Scream Factory Blu-ray. Like, you need to get it. You need to get it. So I'm going to get it. I need to. I love me some Donald Pleasance, but yeah. So everything I felt like your list. I knew Dawn of the Dead would be on yours, and I knew Night of the Living Dead would be on yours. I knew those for sure. Um, I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't. If I'm being totally honest, I'm kind of surprised. I'm not at the same time, but
well, I was talking to Sydney about that, and ultimately I decided, uh, even though I think that the movies are pound for pound better, I still like Tim Curry the
yeah,
most. So because of that, it kind of just teeter-tottered off, on and off. Although 2017's It is probably pound for pound out of all 4 parts, like the original part 1 and part 2, then the remake part 1 and part 2. The remake part 1, 2017 is the best, hands
it's.
down.
I mean, and here's the thing. I prefer chapter 2, and I just think it's because of the levity of the moment and the stakes and everything. I do think chapter 1 is probably a better movie though. So yeah, you won't get much argument from me there. I just think that it was perfectly casted all around. I think the kid group, Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise, like the fact that those movies, people give Andy Muschietti shit for the CGI usage, and some of it sometimes is a little like, okay, why not some practical effects here? But there are some things in those movies that are so impressive, like the wandering eye that Bill Skarsgård does as Pennywise when he's talking and his eye just wanders off and he's like drooling. That's real. He literally can do that. He has trained himself to be able to do that. And when you watch it,
Mhm.
sometimes you're like, is that CGI? No, that's literally this dude living for this role. And he's talked about how getting in the mindset to play Pennywise, it was similar to Heath Ledger with the Joker, where like it takes over your life. Like
Yep.
you genuinely start to believe that you are Pennywise.
Yeah.
And I mean, and you can tell, man, I don't think they could have cast it better. I mean, I really don't. I mean, if someone prefers Tim Curry, I totally understand. But if you were going to do a modern adaptation and you look at what you got with Bill Skarsgård, I don't think you could say, "Oh, we could have done better than that." I don't think you could.
No, I agree. And what was great about it was I never heard of him before, so he
Yes.
was a complete outsider to me, so I couldn't trust him because I didn't know who he was. I love
No
when I don't know the
expectations.
actor.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Alright,
Christian, we got three
yeah.
shitty ones, right?
Yeah, we'll do 3rd least shittiest to the shittiest, and
Okay.
I'll let you go first for your 3rd to last worst ever.
Okay, so guys, there was a lot that I I wanted to put here, but at number 3, we're gonna go shittiest, and absolute steaming pile. So shitty is going to be Cabin Fever. Probably the most pointless remake I've ever seen.
Are you talking about the
Since
Eli Roth Cabin Fever?
no, the 2016 or 2017 remake of Eli
Okay,
Roth's.
thank God. I was gonna say I
Yeah.
love the original Cabin Fever.
No, no.
Oh,
The
I said
remake.
I was thinking I figured there was an even older one, excuse me, not the original.
Have
I
you
meant I
seen
love
this
the
one?
Eli Roth one. No, I've only seen the Eli Roth one.
Do not watch this movie. It is a shot for shot remake that offers nothing in the way of originality. It is terribly acted. It's just bad all around, and they couldn't
Awesome.
even nail the pancakes line. If you were going to nail one thing, nail that, and they couldn't nail it. So for me, number 3 is Cabin Fever. It's shit.
That's funny. Oh, man. Alright, you may not agree with this one at all, but my 3rd shittiest ever, because the stakes were high, is Poltergeist.
Oh, that sucks too. I almost put that on there. Yeah.
Completely soulless, completely lacks any kind of real levity that the original has. I used to think the original was overrated for a long time, then after a while, I would watch it. I like part 2 the most still, that's a real effing horror film, but but Poltergeist 1, it really is a good horror film. I really think it is. There are some beautiful practical effects, horror scenes, and the pool scene, and I just think it's got that it does have that shine and gloss that a Steven Spielberg film has, but it's still a horror film, and I really like the original Poltergeist, and I felt that the remake was completely just a piss poor remake that just did not really have any sort of identity. It just was like a spooky they did a bunch of stupid shit that you just see girls on her cell phone and the phone just dies because it's modern times and that's what you do. Like, I don't know, man. I was really bummed out with the remake of Poltergeist. So
It sucks.
I'm gonna put that at because of the levity of the title. I'm gonna have that as shittiest because it did not meet, in my opinion, the standard it should have met.
Yeah. Well, coming in at number 2 for me, shittiest, is 2005's The Fog. Um,
Yeah, it's mine too, for the record.
yeah. And unfortunately, the last movie that Deborah Hill was credited on as an executive producer, because this movie fucking sucks.
It's
I
that
mean,
bad. I hate
it is
it.
so bad. It is. You make the fog like just essentially like a ghostly entity in and of itself, and it's just a bunch of teeny boppies actors, and there's no stakes. It's the visuals are horrible. The acting sucks. It's just one of the most pointless remakes I probably have ever seen. Um, I genuinely hate this movie with a burning passion. I probably will never watch it again in my life. I haven't seen it in years. I did say maybe I'll watch it one more time years down the road just to remind me of why I fucking hate this movie. It's
It
bad.
my complaint with to go along with what you're saying is it's not good bad in the way some of the other mid-2000s remakes are. Like, there are some good bad ones that I really like Night of the Demon, that remake is so fun and silly, and it's so entertaining. I don't think that The Fog is entertaining it at all. I
No,
just
it's one of those movies that thinks what it's doing is good, and that's why it's not good, bad, good, because it's like
yeah.
it genuinely thinks it's good.
Yeah, I could never promote that film for anybody to see it. I mean, a lot of people though, if you tell them it's the worst thing you've ever seen, that's the first thing they're gonna do is go out and see it, which
Yeah.
is kinda how I am, to be honest with you. If you tell me this is the shittiest thing you've ever seen, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I wonder if our number one, which this is God tier, guys. The tier for number one is the absolute steaming pile of shit.
Just say
Every
it.
I think we agree.
Black
It's fucking Black
Christmas.
Christmas
Yeah,
2019. It fucking sucks. I mean, it's soulless. It's not even a remake. It's just a cash grab. It's it's sexist. It fucking sucks, man.
I
It is
hate it.
so bad. Oh my god, I hate this movie. I
I mean,
hate this movie.
I just love after it comes out and a lot of people are giving their opinion. They were saying just like, you guys forgot to make a movie here, basically, just and then the director's getting on Twitter and saying, well, you're not my audience. I'm talking to the 13-year-old girls out there.
Yep.
Oh, so you're telling them that everybody like that men suck.
Mhm.
Okay. Again, it's just Jesus, man. I a lot of people feel that Blumhouse and Jason did something or there was a movie he made where people were claiming it was sexist or whatever, and a lot of people feel like he made that movie to basically say, "Get off my back." I remember somebody was talking to me about this, about something he did, said, or a movie he made that he was getting backlash from, and so he was like, "Well, let's make this Black Christmas movie so people can leave me alone." Basically,
I mean,
Twitter can leave him alone. But dude, it's
imagine
shit.
imagine being Jason Blum or just Blumhouse in general and hearing this pitch and being like, yeah, I'll put $5 million for that. Like, I would never in a million years have financed this piece of shit. And look, don't misconstrue this. Christian and I have talked about this before, guys, on this podcast, even about how there's nothing wrong with commentary in your movie. There's nothing wrong with the message. There's nothing wrong with pushing an agenda to a certain extent. But when your entire movie is just a narrow minded, one sided view the entire time, and you are essentially saying for 90 minutes, man bad, you can't convince me otherwise, man bad, fuck men, for 90 minutes with no real story to go with it, it's fucking terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Sorry.
I just remember I was laughing watching this film. I was like, "Shit, man." I I almost wanted it to be like the whole thing to just be some big satirical joke, but I know that it's not. It's
No, they
they
thought they
they
thought they were.
if it was a satirical thing, brilliant, but it's not. So, I mean, dude, it's just
Did you see this in theaters?
no, I did not see it in
I was
theaters.
gonna say, God help you if you
I
did.
bought it I bought it for a couple bucks, like the Blu-ray at a used DVD shop. So I bought it for a couple bucks because like curiosity killed the cat. So I just got it for at there's like it's called Game Exchange. It's like a video game store, but they sell DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, and I got it on like a buy two get one half thing. I got it for a couple bucks, and I was like, you know what? Curiosity's probably gonna kill the cat, but whatever. I'm gonna watch this movie because I remember talking to Pizzo, and I was like, Piz, it's not really that bad, is it? He goes, Christian, I he was at a loss for words. He goes like, dude, it's not only as bad as they said it was. I mean, it's bad. He goes, it's really that, and I think it hurt a lot of people because, like, dude, in my opinion, Black Christmas is one of the greatest slasher horror films ever, especially from the 70s. To me, that's top tier 70s, and to just have a movie like that have to share the same title, it's just like, fuck,
I mean, the
you
way I
know.
feel about it is, I will say this, and I would say this to his face. I genuinely mean this. How dare you, Jason Blum? I mean, how dare you? How dare you allow this movie to be called what it was called simply just to try to get asses in the seats so you can make money, knowing that it did not honor the original at all, knowing it had nothing to do with it. You weren't even attempting to remake that movie. You just wanted it to seem like you were so you could sell tickets. And there's a line there. There's certain movies you don't do that. You don't name a movie Halloween and have nothing to do with Michael Myers or Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street. You may not like the remake, but at least it was a remake. At least it was true in a sense to its source material. This was a fucking soulless cash grab, and that kind of shit is unforgivable. And I am literally pointing at where I wrote it on my notebook right now as I'm talking about it because I fucking hate this movie. It's that bad. I can't believe after I watched it, I asked my wife, I was like, what'd you think? That was okay. I said, are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you? And then we watched 2006 Black Christmas. That sucked. What? At least this is somewhat true to the source material and it's fun. Like, Black Christmas 2019 wasn't fun. Even if you like the agenda they were pushing, it's not fun. It's very like depressing the whole fucking time. So I just, God, man, God, if I owned this movie, Christian, I don't know how you do it. If I owned this movie, it would go the way of House Shark. When Piz had House Shark, so he could watch it, he
Hey,
murdered
man,
it with a samurai sword.
it sits on the shelf somewhere in here and minds its own business, so
Yeah,
it is what it
man.
is.
Do you think you'll ever watch it again, like years down the road, just to be like, let's pop this sucker in and see if I stayed it?
Never say never.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, never say never. There are films that I probably didn't like. I don't, not that I'm saying this is the case, but there have been films in the past where I was just like, that's not for me. And then years later, I watch it again. I'm like, shit, man. Like the
Here
My
we
Bloody
go.
Valentine remake,
Yeah.
I did not like that at all. And then I became a Supernatural fan, and then I would go back and watch it under the guise of being a fan of the star of the film. And I was like, you know what, man, I don't think it's as good as the original, but it's not bad, so
This Christmas, be on the lookout, guys, for a Christian Hannah horror event called
re
Hear Me Out Black Christmas 2019.
No, it'll be a hear me out, guys. This movie, everybody says this movie is bad, but I'm here to tell you that it's even worse
Yeah,
than
there you go. There you go.
that.
Subvert the expectations. Hear me out. This movie is actually worse than you thought.
I actually have one more honorable mention, and it would, in Christian Hanora fashion, I do want to mention. I don't think you've seen this, Nick, but I want to say, as a Full Moon Features guy, two of them. Soft kind of a remake reboot, Puppet Master Littlest Reich. If you're a fan of the original first couple films and you never saw the Littlest Reich, the good people that produced Bone Tomahawk and etc., the good people from RLJ Entertainment, they did a bang up job with that. I think it'll make a lot of fans of the original series happy. And also their Castle Freak, which took me a minute to warm up to, but I do think that the Castle Freak remake is really good. And I'm really hoping that they'll get their hands on the ability to redo Subspecies, which I think they'll do a great job with that as well. So I just want to mention that. I've mentioned it on a number of occasions, but to all those Full Moon people up there like me that love those Puppet Masters and Castle Freak in the film Castle Freak, check out the those movies are on Shutter too. I think they're on Shutter. Maybe not anymore. Subspecies might not Subspecies. I think Castle Freak's on Shutter. I don't know about Littlest Reich, but regardless, go pick up those Blu-rays. They're very cheap. I just wanted to mention that just before I forgot.
Yeah, hell yeah. Also, guys, to everybody watching or listening, however you digest this content, here in a few weeks, once Texas Chainsaw Massacre comes out next month, we got about 3 weeks till that drops.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I watched the trailer again today just to be like, okay, that's cool. I want to get a little hype for it. Christian's been beating the drum. He said, come on, like you gotta believe in this. You gotta have hope. So I'm
This
trying.
is the real deal, man. I mean, like I'm saying this franchise, like Texas Chainsaw is the greatest horror film ever made to me. I will never not be excited when a new one comes out. I was excited for Leatherface 2017. Didn't
Yeah,
like it, but I mean, still, I think that this film is gonna have some meat on the bone. I really do. Whoever that guy is in that trailer that played Leatherface, I don't know who that is, but when I saw him, I was like, that looks like the real whoever that is. They look like the real deal. That's
yeah.
all I'm saying.
And
But
we're gonna
anyway,
once we watch it, we're going to revisit. We're gonna go back with Piz, and we are going to cover the back half of the Texas
yeah,
Chainsaw Massacre franchise.
the
So, but up in
remake slash requel slash
yes,
prequel.
some bangers in there and some, you know, we'll get there when we get there. But the reason I mention that is because if you guys have other ideas in the meantime, Christian and I are always throwing ideas back and forth to each other. But if there's something that you guys are very passionate about, and a lot of you, say the same thing, let us know in the comments. Reach out to us and be like, I would love for you guys to tackle this, because the way Christian and I are, especially Christian, if you give him a good idea, he might not see it coming, and he might have other good ideas, but you give him this idea and he'll be like, fuck, that's it. Like, it
Yeah.
could be any idea. So let us know. Let us know if you guys got something.
Mhm. We were doing the franchise face-offs for a while, but I feel we had a good run. I felt that we needed to stop because I didn't want people to get sick and tired of it. Because
Yeah.
I even though tech the Terminator even though the Terminator versus Alien one did good, but I could just tell people were like, "All right, this is fun, but what else do you guys have going on now?"
Yeah.
So I wanted to stop that for a while. Maybe one day we'll resurrect that. I know a lot of people wanted to see Chucky get in that mix. We never did put Chucky in the mix, but I couldn't figure out. I just felt doing Chucky versus Leprechaun would have been so lopsided.
Oh,
I can't put any Leprechaun, especially the first 3 over any of the I got my Child's Play 3 shirt on today, but
hell yeah.
I couldn't put any although I love the first 3, 4, actually 4 Leprechauns passionately, I couldn't put any of them over Child's Play, so it just would have been so lopsided for me.
Yeah.
But, maybe we'll do some kind of Child's Play thing soon. I mean, I'm sure people would like that. I don't know.
Yeah. We
I
haven't talked about Chucky.
We haven't. I've gotten all the Return of Living Dead. I've drenched that towel. I've got every last drop of that out. So I can't do any more Return of Living Dead,
I mean, we could even just do
content.
what we've done with, Lee and Tiz. I mean, I'm not even saying that anybody else has to be here, but we could even just cover the Child's Play franchise, talk about our first memories of each movie, like
Yeah,
all that type of stuff.
I think people would probably like that a lot.
Yeah,
So let us know if you want that, but again, drop us an idea and I'm more than happy to uh to hear you guys out because I this is you guys make the show. If you guys stop watching, there's no point in doing it. So we want you guys to stay happy. So just let
yeah,
us know.
for
Nick,
sure.
final thoughts? Remakes?
Uh, no, I mean, remakes are what they are. They're not as they're not as pointless at times. That I think that there are more remakes that have redeeming qualities than remakes that are utter dog shit. I think that the fact that the term is so taboo needs to go by the wayside soon enough. I mean, the point of a remake is to reintroduce it to a new audience so people can get an appreciation for an old story or an old character or an old movie. Because it's hard, man. I know I have younger siblings that are teenagers. It's hard to tell my 13-year-old sister, hey, you're really going to love this 1974 Black Christmas. I think it's right in your wheelhouse. It's
Right.
hard sometimes. So
It's true.
they serve a purpose. They definitely serve a purpose. So I think people just need to get off the stigma of remakes are bad no matter what. So,
Well, are you happy with the requel
um,
phase?
I am for the most part, I would say. I think that Scream did it far better than Halloween 2018 did. Um, but I don't think that was necessarily a detriment. That was to the detriment of the filmmakers. I don't think that was their fault with Halloween 2018. Halloween 2018 was always going to be more of a stretch to make that seem organic because you took away the brother sister angle. So why the hell would Laurie and Michael want to face off 40 years later? You know what I mean? It was always going to be harder that way. Whereas with
Yeah.
Scream, it always goes back to Sidney Prescott. The killings started because of Sidney Prescott, so it's easy to bring her back into those movies. So
Not only that, I mean, only you look at the levity of the original Halloween 2, that movie is so beloved. Candyman 2 is not beloved. Scream 2, it's Scream. I mean, Scream is the most beloved one. But Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2, I mean, damn near, I mean, Jesus Christ, that movie is beloved. So, back against the wall with a lot of us for that, and I'm guilty of that as well. But,
I mean, if
I
if if we give a grade on the Halloween requels right now, you'd have to give a grade of incomplete because if they nail Halloween ends, this could all end up making sense. It could all tie together really nicely, and you could go, okay, looking back on it, yeah, okay, this movie is better now. That this character choice makes more sense now, but we just don't know yet. We have one more to go. But if I'm a betting man, yeah, I don't think Halloween Ends is going to nail it enough to make people look at that 3-movie arc and go, this is fantastic. No, whereas I think, again, I'm going to plug it again. Scream has a really good chance of making a badass trilogy and a new trilogy. And I think that I'm very excited for that. I really, really am. I like Halloween 2018. I really like Halloween Kills. I hope I love Halloween Ends, but if I just like it, well, then none of the movies were pointless to me. But yeah, I saw Scream again the other night, so I've seen it twice now, and I actually liked the third act a lot more the second time. I was like, why did I have complaints with this? This is actually pretty fun. Just
Ag
reaffirmed that.
again, dude, watching Screams more than once, you never know
Yeah.
what you're gonna feel afterwards. 'Cause you know, once the initial blow of finding everything out is over, it's just like, I wonder if I'm gonna like this more when I see it again, which is always the hope that you wanna like it more when you see it. You can see it differently, you know, you can watch the film, kinda drop your shoulders a little bit, right? You don't have to worry
Oh
about
yeah.
who it is anymore.
And guys, if you weren't a fan, uh,
Big fucking deal.
Scream is yeah, Scream's gonna
No, I'm
pass
kidding.
$100 million at the box office within the next week. It's a certified hit, so we're gonna get another one. So
A lot of people
hope
think they're gonna call it Scream 2.
I saw that going around on Twitter, and I even saw Matthew Lillard like co-sign on it and like retweeted himself and go, "How would you guys feel about this?" You know, it's weird because Scream, the most recent one, is Scream 5. It all 4 movies happened. They acknowledge all of them. It's canon, but I feel like you could still get away with it. You could still get away with calling it Scream 2. I really do think you could.
I mean,
Um,
If Halloween can do it, why can't Scream do it? Halloween has
yeah,
2 Halloween 2s. Just
yeah, screw it, But that's enough
oh,
about
shit.
Scream. I just wanted to say that. But yeah, guys, I hope a lot of you are more open-minded when it comes to remakes, because I think there's more good than bad out of the
How about
bunch.
this? How about this? You're gonna fucking watch it anyway.
Yeah.
So get off your you know what I
You're gonna
mean?
even if it's just a bitch, you're gonna watch it.
You're
Yeah.
gonna fucking watch it, so shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
I
guys.
mean,
Love y'all. You know, whatever. All right. Let's wrap it up. Thank y'all for taking this remake journey with us. I can't wait to see what people say is their favorite remake and their least favorite remake and why. We can't wait to see what you guys have to say. Let us know what you want us to cover soon or next on the podcast. And y'all be good. Have a great rest of your day, whatever time of day it is you're listening right now. We
all
love
righty.
you. See you later. This has been a production of the You Need a Horror podcast. You need it, we got it. Thank you for listening.